Have you ever taken a moment to appreciate cartridges? I know that sounds odd, but they've been mostly the main media storage that we get our video games even to this day. They come in all shapes and sizes, from the big NES tapes to the various Atari 2600 shells to even the tiny Switch ROMs we have now as this video goes up. They've been around for so long that you may not remember what console or handheld that cartridges originated from. For home consoles, the answer is the Fairchild Channel F, even though that's usually misremembered, much like with the handheld scene. Now, the Game Boy, of course, had cartridges, but it mostly popularized it, much like the Atari 2600 did at the home. So now the question is, what portable system made the advancement of adding cartridges to the handheld market? Well, that answer would come from a vision from Milton Bradley that was anything but small. It's the Microvision. I don't know where the micro in its name comes from. The box is already big to begin with, and the picture of the unit is sizable. I think it refers to the tiny screen because it's the only real thing that's smaller than the unit shown. The Microvision was released nearly 40 years ago as of this video, on November of 1979, as the first portable handheld that would ever use interchangeable cartridges, as it shows and brags about here on the box. A little or big tidbit about the programmable electronic game system is that it was designed by J. Smith of Smith Engineering, the same person who would later design the Vectrex. Now that's an impressive track record. We know offhand that the Vectrex is an outstanding system, but can the Microvision be on par? We'll soon find out, but first we'll need to highlight the other parts of the box. Not necessarily the copy and pasted sides, but the lightly colored back. That not only gives you another logo, but also highlights the pack-in game, Blockbuster. Now, I'm sure you can tell what type of game this is, but I find it funny that they were able to name a game after a popular movie rental chain 6 years before it was founded. I know it's a pun as well, but my mind makes me laugh. That isn't the only game either. There are several other games it talks about on the bottom, and we'll see a good chunk of them in good time. But now it's time to open this box and take a closer look at the Microvision itself. I'm sure you can see close up that the Microvision is indeed anything but micro. It's about the length of both my hands put together, or my arm to the elbow. And I'm a lengthy guy IRL. The half-faded golden logo of the Microvision still shines on the brown and tan portable. We have the Blockbuster game decking out most of the system, and a rotator knob that'll be a primary controller for all of the games. Now, if you haven't been paying too much attention, I'm going to show you a magic trick. I'm going to remove the cartridge right in front of your eyes. Now, isn't that wild? The cartridges themselves are just about 3/4 the size of the system. Can somebody please tell me where the micro in its name came from? Inside where the cartridge was, we see a good amount of things that make the Microvision. A common sight to see if you are a Microvision collector, because you may have had to try and fix one if you could. The Microvision has had a reputation for not being able to work properly. I'm one of the fortunate to have one working fine, but many others could say differently. It all lies with the poor production quality by today's standards. For example, the screen could easily rot from poor sealing or staying out in the sun too long. The keypad could get destroyed if the piece of plastic covering the 12-button keypad stretched or tore, and the micropressor on each cartridge could be sustainable to ESD damage, which would happen if you touch the pins inside the card and build up a static shock that could in turn fatally destroy the game. My God, this thing is a piece of work. Maybe the micro refers to the big work needed to be done with what would be considered at the time a small unit. Let's briefly look at a cartridge by itself. This is what a common box would be like, with a big game logo and Microvision plastered all around it. Inside you'll find instructions and the cartridge that I myself strategically and carefully covered in bubble wrap for protection. Now the cartridge shape will always look the same, but the game layout will always be different. Like with pinball, the screen will look like this, while Vegas slots will look like this. The same goes for the keypad buttons, as not all the games will use all the buttons on the keypad, much like with the Intellivision or Atari 5200 games and their use of the keypad. Flipping over the cartridge gives us not a whole lot to look at, other than the back of the overlays, if you will, a sticker with numerical info by chance, and the pins. Not gonna bother showing those to you, as I already discussed the risks of doing so. Did I mention my Microvision came with a manual and catalog? It even has instructions for Blockbuster on the back of the lid. That's a Milton Bradley board game move. How can I forget to show you guys the on and off switch on the side here? Sorry for not showing that earlier, but let's transition to the back where it has some things like foot pads, screws, Milton Bradley Electronics logo and Made in USA stamp implanted on it, a contrast knob for the screen, and the interesting battery compartment. The Microvision took 1 or 2 9-volt batteries. Reason why that's the case is because different versions of the Microvision games had different processors. Either an Intel or Texas Instruments processor occupied the cartridges and needed different battery consumption to accommodate it. Depending on what you get, you'll still have 2 battery holders, but one may not be used and be considered a spare battery holder. That's hilarious in retrospect, but it worked. Mine is TI, so that's how I know. So that's about the Microvision in full, so let's take a look at some more of its games, shall we? The library for the handheld is rather micro, to keep the puns going. Only 12 games were released and was a unique mix. Most games could be described as clones or electronic recreations of other games. Some noteworthy titles would be Star Trek Phaser Strike and Super Blockbuster, the only exclusive to Europe, if you don't count the retheming of Star Trek in that region. Every game runs the best it can these days and are fun when they can run. I thoroughly enjoy bowling or Connect 4 or any other game that runs on this LCD display. Right now I have nearly 3/4 of the collection in my possession. If you have a few in need of preservation, leave a comment, but take into account those that I am about to show here. The Microvision was a good handheld to get the market going where it needed to go. It gave an early start to cartridges, which was a step forward, but its reputation for being faulty and not a lot of games and support made it go 2 steps back. But it opened the door for Nintendo to create its Game & Watch handheld line, which worked around this system's limitations. And I thought a calculator gave them that idea. But if you are able to find a Microvision somewhere in your area in working order and reasonably priced, you should definitely get one, especially if it has some games, so you can have in your hands a handheld small enough to bring you the power of a home console to your hands. If it was an LCD console anyway, it's the Microvision. On the subject of Game & Watches, there were so many of those systems, weren't there? And they could come in different types and series, from widescreen, panorama, tabletop, or even multi-screen. And on the next episode, we'll take a look at one of the more famous G&Ws based off the very successful arcade game that put Nintendo on the map. If you think I missed anything, please leave a comment. If you like what you see, leave a like. If you think others could get knowledge out of this, share this video. And if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. Now if you'll excuse me, nostalgia is calling.